That was by the grace of God. When I went up there, I never left there. I felt like Natalie Holloway's mother in Aruba. I went up with one suitcase and I stayed there. Summer turned to winter. I didn't even have winter clothes. But I stayed there. Thank God I had family up there that took me in. And I researched and I interviewed medical professionals. I got the employees of the abortion clinic. I talked to them all. I went to the medical board with a stack of research this thick and shoved it across the table. I said, this man killed my daughter. They were in shock. They said, Mrs. Smith, no one ever does this. You made our case so easy. That was November. By February 20th, they found out. They took his license. One thing that really worked against him was he tried to cover up my daughter's death. After she died, he went out and bought all the equipment he should have had but didn't feel like paying for before my daughter died. He set up a whole room that completely had everything he needed. He didn't even have oxygen in his office. He was giving level 3 drugs without an anesthesiologist, without even an LPN or an RN. He was the only medically trained person, and he wasn't even trained in life support. My daughter wasn't breathing. He didn't even know what to do. There was him and a hand holder in that whole office. It was his own office. So then he tried to cover up. There was even a local sheriff, a couple counties over, that tried to help him. They came in and trained CPR and backdated the certificates. So when they went to the medical board, they had a whole sterile operation. They took the medical board through that office. Looks right, looks great, looks perfect, you know. But I knew, you know, thank God one of the employees in the office came forward to the medical board and exposed what he did. And they were in shock. They immediately took his license, revoked his license, and that was wonderful. But what it did, it sealed the medical board's case. I also started a civil case and a criminal case. I visited the DA every other week. Now, we had no autopsy report, so it was just me saying he killed my daughter, and he was very polite, but he wanted me to go away. After many months of me just showing up at his office saying this man killed my daughter, he said, Mrs. Smith, don't you have a lawyer? Yes, but that's a civil case. They just slapped the insurance company's hand. He killed my daughter. You don't understand. Well, when the cover-up came out and the doctor lost his license and all those things came forward, the DA started to see things my way. He was indicted for manslaughter this past July. Thank God, and arraigned. We're now in the court process. He's going to be going to trial. Now, my own lawyer in a civil case said, Eileen, you're wasting your time. It has never happened in Massachusetts. A doctor has never been convicted or even charged with manslaughter. I said, I will be the first. And I was. Thank God. God gave me favor. Yes. And I have to say, you know, I was pro-life, but I never knew about pregnancy care centers. I was pro-life in my heart. I never did anything for pro-life. And it's ironic because I'm an avid fan of the Holocaust. I don't mean fan, but I mean, I read everything there's been written about it. I've seen all the movies. I've been to a couple of the death camps. I've gone to the museums. I am so disturbed about that whenever it comes up. It sickens me about man's inhumanity to man. And it wasn't in the dark ages. It was only a few years before I was born. I could never comprehend how could this happen. And I used to get very upset about the church in Europe. Where was the church? Why wasn't the church doing anything? Were they asleep? Did they not care? Were they hard-hearted? I used to pride myself and say, if I was there, surely I would have been involved in the resistance. I would have been hiding Jews in my house. I would have been sneaking them out of the country. It wouldn't have happened in front of me without me not doing everything I could to stop it. You know, we hear of a few people like Corrie ten Boom and Schindler, and there's many more good people that did do something, but 6 million people died. 6 million Jews died. Obviously, they didn't do enough, and there wasn't enough people. I mean, there wasn't enough people doing what those people did. Well, God spoke to my heart after Laura died and pulled my covers, and he said, these people that you have judged your whole life, you are these people. I was horrified. And God was right. You are these people. You are in the midst of an American Holocaust and you've done nothing. God was speaking to me very gently, but very, very truthfully. And it was so true. I was asleep. I was doing nothing. I didn't even know pregnancy care centers existed. And why didn't I do about anything? I say I'm pro-life. Why didn't I do anything about it? I didn't do anything about it because I didn't think you could do anything about it. I thought abortion was here to stay. I thought it was a judgment on our culture. I thought the people that protested in front of those clinics were spitting in the wind, and they did it to feel better, but you know, there's nothing you can do. You were really wasting your time. I mean, it was a noble cause, but I thought it was a waste of time. I thought that if you raise your children within your values, as I said, we were pro-life. We worked within the church a whole lot. We weren't Eastern Christmas Christians. We were very involved in our church. and evangelism and telling people about God and the goodness of God. You figure you raise your children in a pro-life home, they'll follow your values. I believe, living my faith and bringing people to the knowledge of God, you take away from the attrition of abortion that way. I was shocked to find out that abortion's in the church. And now when, the blinders came off my eyes, I had to think, when did I ever hear the word abortion mentioned in my church? I've been in several, churches over the past several decades that I've been a Christian, and I have heard the word abortion stuffed in between the word gluttony and adultery. That's about all that we talked about. It was not talked about. Another thing that changed my life, a couple weeks after Laura died, I had many sleepless nights. One night I got up and watched Amazing Grace, the life of William Wilberforce, for the third time. I've seen it 7 times by now, and I would encourage you, if you've never seen that movie, watch it with your family. For those of you who don't know, I'm sure many of you do, but William Wilberforce was a man who almost single-handedly, there were people that helped him, but in the government, he almost single-handedly brought the end of slavery over many, many years, much to the detriment of his reputation and his health. But he was a righteous man for a righteous cause with a righteous God, and he accomplished much because of that. There was no civil war. There were no shots fired. Slavery was ended because of his passion for the life of the slaves. And God spoke to my heart, yes. God spoke to my heart and said, he was one man with one voice. You are one woman with one voice, and you can touch your nation. That's when God started to tell me to come and speak out. And I want to tell you tonight that you are one person with one voice, and you can touch your nation. You can touch your communities. You can touch your schools. You can touch people with your voice. This is a fundraiser tonight. We, of course, want you to write a check, but I want to tell you, abortion will not end just because people write checks. Abortion will end when we all unite for the cause and work towards ending abortion. And it's not just abortion we're fighting. It's the culture of death that has taken over our society. And it's not just in America, it's globally. I want to say that it's too late for passive concern. Time has passed for discussion. I dare say immediate action is called for. This is the midnight hour for life as we used to know it. That we have to rise up to our finest hour, because without life, what is left? What is left if we don't have life? I implore you to ask God to give you a life consciousness, to live your life out of that life consciousness. The same way we have a God consciousness and live our faith in our day-to-day life. Have a life consciousness and ask God. God will give you wisdom. God will show you. God has shown me. And I pray your awakening is not nowhere near as dramatic as my awakening has been. I repented to God for my lack of activity, and I told him I'd spend the rest of my life for life. Thank you very much.